Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this special meeting of the City Council, Town Hall that we're having. I appreciate everyone being here. I'm going to read our land acknowledgement, and then we're going to get started. The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lashon. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. Okay, so thank you all for joining us tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming out. I know this subject is near and dear to many hearts, so it is really useful to have everybody show up and tell us how they feel. I'm going to talk through some statements and go over the agenda, as well as sort of introduce things. So first, before I start, in addition to the comment period we'll have tonight, we have QR codes and physical surveys that Brendan Brown has produced, thank you, to sort of give us some feedback. You can do these in addition to comment. We really appreciate you doing it. We'll generate a word cloud and some other things at the end from that, so everyone will be able to see it. Those are in the back, I think. Then let's talk about the agenda. So after I finish, our staff is going to summarize the facts on the ground and some of the work that we've done to gain knowledge on this issue. After that, we're going to give the Friends of the Albany Twin Group a few minutes to introduce themselves for anyone unfamiliar and talk about what they've been doing and the knowledge that they've gathered. After that, I'll lead us into hearing from all of you, which will proceed similar to some of our regular meetings of the City Council. We have a ton of you here. We weren't sure if there would be 5 people here or 50 people here tonight. It is much closer to 50. So we are going to get to everyone, and everyone will have, I think, 2 minutes to start off. And if we get through everybody, we can come back. But if we don't get to everything you wanted to say, we can have other options for this sort of feedback, or we can have, you can email us. We're happy to talk otherwise. I'll stick around afterwards if you want to talk to me, anything like that. We will get your feedback however we can, even if we don't have time to get to everything you want to say tonight. And then after that, we'll have some brief council discussion and summarizing. So before we get into all of that, I wanted to talk about where we're at and what we want to get done tonight. We decided to have this event for a couple of reasons, and after doing a lot of work internally, and as staff is going to summarize, part of what we want to communicate is we're in a bit of a difficult spot right now. We have done a ton of work, and I want to thank everybody on staff who's been involved with that. We've had meetings with the owners of the theater, with other operators, internally with members of the community, like the Friends of the Twin. We've done research. There's really been a lot going on that we wanted to be able to share with you, but at the moment, we don't have a ton of avenues in front of us to preserve the Twin as a theater as the city. There are a couple bits to that, which we'll talk about in more detail in a second. Some of that is the limitations we're under as government and how those limitations have changed since maybe some of the other theaters that we all may be familiar with were saved. Part of that stems from the operators who have been really helpful and willing to discuss with us and met with myself and with our staff on a couple occasions, but have communicated in pretty clear terms that they aren't interested in continuing operation of the theater as a theater. That's their settled and informed opinion as longtime owners and operators of theaters across the state. So that's what we've heard from them. There's other parts to that. Again, we'll talk about that in more detail in a second, but I wanted to fill everybody in on that from the get-go. And that's all not to say that we are, even if from what we've seen, we're in a difficult spot, that's not to say that we are dismissing your ideas. If you came here with them, we'll take a look at anything. And that's not to say the city can't be helpful to any of that if we are able and if directed to by the council. to talk about what it would be, or what we're hoping to do tonight. This is really a listening and information session. It's a chance for us to share what's happening with you, and for us to hear about how everyone's feeling in the community. And that includes sharing information about things we can't do that might be disappointing. It's part of our job. And while that may seem obvious to some extent, I want to be really clear, because I really personally don't want anyone to come away from this feeling like we're trying to stonewall this effort, or we did this town hall just so we could do it. I think it's a very important part of our job in the government to be honest with our community and have occasions like this where we can share that, and to listen to what everyone's feeling, even sometimes, and especially sometimes when those two things aren't in agreement. So that's all to say, this is a chance to share information, but more, and that's important for us, but even more important for us on the city side, I think, is to hear what everybody's feeling, what they're thinking, what they'd like to see happen in general sense. Because regardless of what happens with the Twin specifically, we want to address the needs of the community more broadly. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to staff, and then we will come back to the friends, and I'll talk a little bit more, and then we'll go into discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to everyone for attending tonight. I have our Community Development Director here, Jeff Bond, who will give you a summary. Sorry, I'm not close enough. Thank you. Can you hear me okay now? Yeah. So I'm Nicole Almaguer, the city manager, and now you can hear me. Thank you. I really just want to appreciate the attendance tonight. I know it's a hot evening, and unfortunately, we're in the one city building with air conditioning, so that was a double win. And reiterate that we are here to listen and get your feedback, and we're doing that in a number of ways, either through the microphone up front, the QR code if you are so willing, and the good old paper version in the back. That helps us collect your values and interests and concerns and synthesize them as we move forward together. I know this is an important topic, and I wanted to also recognize the stewardship of the Friends of Albany Twin Group and all the work you've done collectively, and also your time in meeting with staff over the last several months now. So with that, I would like to appreciate Jeff Bond, who will provide an overview of the issue at stake, and also recognize our council for their second meeting this week. So thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. So I see lots of familiar faces, but for those of you who don't know me, my name's Jeff Bond. I'm the Community Development Director for the city. And as the mayor mentioned, I'm going to kind of quickly go through some of the basic facts on the ground. If there are questions during your public comment, convey those questions, and we'll try to organize responses to that as appropriate. I'm also happy to spend some time afterwards, or you can reach out to me on another day and spend more time on some of these things if you'd like. So just to kind of go down my list of pieces of information that might be useful to you. First of all, the property itself is, it actually consists of 3 parcels. It totals about 18,000 square feet, a little over 18,000 square feet. The footprint of the building itself is about 5,000 square feet, and then the parking lot behind it. And that parking lot has, by the way, 37 parking spaces for what that's worth. The property is owned by a limited liability corporation that's associated with the Robertson Properties Group. We have met with them on a few occasions over the last couple of years, long before the movie theater closed. It is a privately held real estate company based in Los Angeles. They are in turn a subsidiary of a company called Decurion. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Decurion Corporation. And by the way, a lot of this is what I've gotten about them off the internet. So take it for a grain of salt, but I think this is consistent with what they've shared with us in their meetings with us. It's family-owned business. It's third generation. They have a history in the entertainment business. I gather the first generation of the family started a lot of the drive-in theaters in Southern California. The company has evolved over time. They did operate Pacific Theaters and ArcLight Cinemas for a while. Both of those apparently went into bankruptcy a few years ago. And so now Robertson in particular is essentially a real estate company. They operate retail and industrial projects in California and Hawaii, and apparently have over 5 million square feet of real estate assets. as we've mentioned, we've met with them now on a few occasions. And just to share with you my impression of them as an organization, they're first of all, they're nice people, actually. I know it's disappointing they closed the theater, but they're nice folks. They strike me as very knowledgeable about the real estate business, knowledgeable about the entertainment business, and perhaps quite conservative and financially conservative in those regards. They have expressed that they tend to take a long-term view of their asset management of their assets, again, for what that's worth. A little bit of history on the building, and this is a little sketchy because we don't really have a lot of information about this building in our files, interestingly enough. I gather from bits and pieces of things I've been able to find in some of the local history books and so forth. It started as a social hall in the 20s. The building was built as a social hall. Starting to find some scraps of things in our files about it being converted to a theater in 1940 or so. The balcony was converted sometime in the 70s to a separate screen. And then Landmark, the most recent operator, began to operate it, I gather, in the mid-1990s. So Landmark, we've known Landmark as the operator theater. They never actually owned the property. As I mentioned, we have kind of sketchy files on this because very few permits have been issued for the property, which means that the next users of this building will have to address some things. I think everybody knows about the accessibility issues. It's not great. It doesn't comply with federal law. So that definitely needs attention. It probably needs some seismic upgrades. It probably needs some safety improvements and some energy efficiency improvements as well. So that's just kind of setting the stage for the future of this building if we can find a productive use as a theater or anything else for that matter. There's an investment required. It's not something where somebody can just walk in and open it up the next day. I'll briefly touch on what I've gathered about the movie theater business. I'm really kind of way outside my area of expertise and experience in this, but again, just when this came to light a few months ago, I felt like I needed to dive into a little bit of get some knowledge about what's going on, and I'll share with you for what it's worth, what I've gained. First of all, obviously, the movie theater business is changing. Streaming has changed that, where a lot of people watch from home. And the COVID pandemic accelerated that trend pretty dramatically. As it relates to this particular theater, there's a lot of movies that really lend themselves more to an IMAX kind of technology venue, or to theaters that can provide food and beverage services. As I understand it, this theater as it is today is not super well set up for those kinds of things. Perhaps they can get there. And also, again, it's no secret, movie theaters are going through a struggling time. You all probably know, but I'll just mention there, to my knowledge, there's been 3 closures in Berkeley. 2 of them operated also by Landmark, the Shattuck and the California Theater, and then the Regal also. And from what I can gather about Landmark, they have declined, generally speaking, from, I think, somewhere of a peak around 55 theaters to something like 33. Again, this is off the internet, so don't hold me to those particular facts. But that, as an operator, they seem to be scaling back. We do get some questions about what the city's land use regulations say about this property. It's located, although it's located on San Pablo Avenue, it's actually within our San Pablo Avenue zoning district, because it kind of turns the corner there at Solano and San Pablo. A lot of different things are allowed in this particular location. It can continue as a movie theater, of course. It could be converted to retail, office, professional offices, and housing. All those things are allowed under our zoning ordinance. It is identified in our housing element. It's one of 45 sites that have been identified in the city's housing element as a housing opportunity site. And that is happening up and down the San Pablo corridor, as I'm sure you all see as you travel through Berkeley and El Cerrito and so forth. Another question I've gotten from a few different folks is, does the city have a historic preservation ordinance? And the answer is no, we don't. Could we have a historic preservation ordinance? Up to the city council if they wanted to pursue that or not. My experience with those things in other cities is they're challenging, they're controversial, they take a long time to set up, and it would be hard to get this historic preservation ordinance in place and to deal with all the issues that would come up unrelated to the theater in time to really make something happen for the theater. And at the end of the day, if we work through all of that, historic preservation ordinances are good at protecting kind of architectural features. They don't necessarily regulate what use is going on inside of a building. So again, that's something that is a potential policy direction to take, but it's not the perfect answer. I want to wrap up with a couple of ideas. First of all, what can the city do? As the mayor mentioned, redevelopment agencies have been dissolved in California about 10 years ago. Back in the day, I worked for a redevelopment agency in Alameda for many years. We had a lot of ability to bring money to the table and legal authority to be kind of entrepreneur with things like movie theaters. We don't have that authority anymore in Albany. But there are some things we can do. I think so far what we've tried to do is keep a good line of communication open with the property owners. And we will continue to do that. They know about this meeting tonight. We'll report back to them what we learned from you this evening. I think our economic development efforts, Brennan Brown kind of leads a lot of that with us for the city. We can continue to support talking about the theater in Albany as a community that would welcome a theater operator. If we need to make some public infrastructure improvements to make the property viable, that's something that the city council can certainly consider, and fix sewer lines and sidewalks and lighting and all those kinds of things. There's some other things that we could do to kind of nibble around the edges, but those are some of the big things. If the city were to dive right into the middle of a kind of a major investment in this thing, the challenge is that we can only spend public money for a public use. So that's one of the challenges that the mayor alluded to. We're not entrepreneurial business partners that would really be lovely to have somebody kind of parachute in and help us figure this out, but we're probably not that entity, at least under the way the laws are written today. So again, thank you for your patience and listening. I hope I've given you some useful information, and if there are more questions later on, I'll try to answer them as appropriate. So, back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. With that, we wanted to give the Friends of the Albany Twin a couple of minutes to talk about what they've been doing. So if you guys want to go to the microphone over there.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Jess Hutchison, and I'm the coordinator of the Friends of the Albany Twin Group. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Tiedemann and the City Council and the rest of the city staff for allowing us a bit of time to speak to you today. The Friends of the Albany Twin was formed in the days after the announcement of the theater's closure. In fact, several of us met after the last showing that day at the theater. We now have 12 people on our steering committee. Most of them are here. And we meet weekly. And incredibly, we now have 700 people, actually over 700 people on our mailing list and over 400 on our Facebook group. We are committed to reopening the theater and keeping it open and operational. Now, I'm sure if I asked everyone in this room about their favorite movie or their favorite filmmaker or actor, we'd get as many answers as there are people. But something that I think most of us can agree on is that the Albany Twin is vital to our community. So what makes it important to us? One is that the theater brings people to our downtown to shop, eat, drink, and walk around. Ask any of the owners of businesses around the Twin, and they are devastated at the closure. The theater was part of a vibrant and dynamic economic ecosystem that now feels more stagnant. And I'm sure you've all felt the loss of the brightly lit sign at night. It used to be such a welcoming beacon to our town. But beyond that economic reasons for wanting a neighborhood theater on Solano, I think we can't forget about the value of having a third place. The sociologist Ray Oldenburg described a third place as a space where we interact and congregate with people outside of our home, which is the first place, or work, which is the second place. He argued that third places are essential to a community's vitality and help us feel a sense of place. When the pandemic began and most of us were isolated at home, well, speaking for myself, as unhappy as I was about it, I felt lucky to have a vast selection of movies available to me streaming within a moment of even considering watching it. But after a while, I realized it's not enough. The first time I sat down in a movie theater with other people after the closures were lifted, it dawned on me that a theater is not just a place to see a movie. It's a place to connect, to share the experience of seeing a meaningful piece of culture with other human beings. That is special, and we are so lucky to have this right in the middle of our downtown, within walking distance of virtually everyone in Albany. Amazingly, we even have our own film festival here, the Albany Film Fest, run by a team of volunteers. There is a deep love and commitment for the cinematic arts within our community. So what can we do? We are optimistic that there is the political will and the community support to keep the Albany Twin going. We understand that there are many paths forward. The city, our group, and the people of Albany can work together to find a real estate solution that works for everyone. I've lived here in Albany for 15 years, and one of the reasons my husband and I wanted to be here and raise our kid here is because it could sustain an institution like the Albany Twin. In fact, Albany has had a theater on or right next to that location since 1916, over almost 110 years. Let's all commit to doing what we can to reopen it and keep it operational. It's something special about Albany that we can't afford to lose. Thank you. And now Kent Sparling, an Albany filmmaker and a member of the Friends of the Albany Twin, is going to talk about the art of cinema and what a theater brings to a community.
Thank you, Jess. Hello, everyone. Council, thank you for having us. My name is Kent Sparling, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Friends of the Albany Twin, a passionate group of local residents working to reopen the theater. I believe that cinema, the movies, if you will, is an art form no less than painting or sculpture or music or opera or dance or theater. All of these forms of art require specialized spaces where the public can come together and share the experience of the art with members of their community. We don't question the necessity of music venues or opera houses or theaters or museums. Why should we accept that one by one, each of our local movie theaters is closing down? Why should we be expected to resign ourselves and assume that this is inevitable, that it's merely economics? Folks of all different backgrounds coming together into a darkened hall to watch a movie image 40 feet wide with dynamic sound coming from all sides, it's an experience that's unlike any other. Watching films by yourself in your home or on your computer or your tablet or your phone, it bears nothing in common with seeing a movie in the theater. I'm a filmmaker by profession, and I can assure you that each of us who makes films intends for them to be seen by large groups of strangers in a big dark room on a huge screen. We know that there's something magical about that, and most of you know that as well. As a community, we need theaters like the Albany Twin, places where we can see a variety of stories from all corners of the world, in every genre, from filmmakers of every persuasion. Watching these stories of others teaches us empathy and strengthens our understanding of each other, our basic human connection. Each small independent theater that is saved by its community is a testament that the history and art of cinema, the breadth of storytelling, that shared experience is something that benefits us all. The Friends of the Albany Twin are committed to finding a way to reopen the Albany Twin as an independent cinema, which will show films of all kinds, big and small, old and new, classic, international, crowd-pleasing, and innovative. Friends of the Albany Twin recognize the cultural and community value in the shared experience, and we're dedicated to maintaining and expanding a public space for cinematic art here in Albany. Thanks very much for your support.
Thank you, Ken, and thanks everyone for coming tonight. Again, thank you to the city. A place like a movie theater can exist without people committed to the art and entertainment of movies. If you'd like to chat with a member of our group, we'll be out in the lobby after the meeting. Most of us are wearing t-shirts. You can find out how to sign up for our mailing list and give us any contacts in the movie theater world or the film industry that you think we should know, or just share your ideas for what would make the perfect movie theater for Albany. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much for being part of the event tonight. We appreciate it. So in a second, we're going to go into the public comment period. But first, just 3 more brief things from me. First, we are going to try our best to respond to through lines and questions, sort of as appropriate. Like Jeff mentioned, we, just like in a normal city council meeting, don't have the answers to everything ready on hand. So if we don't, we can always do more work later and get back to you. Second, I wanted to ask a question before we get started that hopefully some of you can try and respond to in your comments of what is it you want the city to provide or facilitate that the theater does now. And I mean that, to put it more bluntly, I want to hear not just how people would like to save the theater or what they'd like the city to do about it, but about what the benefits to the community the Twin is providing, and what the city can do to help provide those benefits regardless of whether there's a theater there or not. For instance, like was mentioned by the Friends, if the theater is really valuable to you as a third space and you are worried about the city losing that and you think our community really needs something like that, please let us know that so we know that the city needs to, regardless of what happens for this specific property, needs to provide that more and facilitate it, because that's something that we can really take forward as actionable even if we can't meet some of the other wants that we have here tonight. Third, like I said earlier in my opening spiel, this is really a big chance for us to get a pulse of how everybody's feeling without a specific item attached to it that we're voting on or anything like that in a normal meeting. So please, this is a place for all the emotions anyone's brought to tonight and about this topic. Meaning, if you are upset and if you need somebody to yell at, you can yell at me tonight if you want. I would love if you didn't, but that is my job, and I can take it. I ask that everyone be respectful to each other so that everyone feels comfortable expressing what they came here to express, and be nice to our staff who are really doing their job and are already going above and beyond. I really appreciate them. But if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you have a memory about the theater you want to share as part of your comment, if you have a question to ask, anything in between, that's what we're here to hear. So all of it has a place and all of it is on topic and under the agenda. With that, we're going to comment. I don't think we have speaker cards or anything. So if people want to line up over here 3 at a time or something, if nobody comes, I'll just start picking you at random based on how you're seated. And talk to the microphone. We're going to give everybody 2 minutes to start. I'll try and give some grace period for that like I normally do even in normal city council meetings, but there are a lot of you and I want to be able to hear from all of you. So keep that in mind while making your comment. And there's a timer on the projector behind that right there. And I'll give you a warning if I need to. So with that, you want to go ahead?
Have you asked the owners why they don't want to have a movie theater there? What's their reason?
And I'll clarify, as a normal one, if you want to ask us the questions and give us all the comment you want in your 2 minutes, and then at the end of that, we can answer it and respond.
Well, what I'm thinking is there must be some reason they don't like movie theaters. And maybe we can respond to that by, maybe there's some way to satisfy them. And if you don't know why they don't want a movie theater there, you can't do it. Okay, that's all I had.
Thank you for your comment. I'll try and briefly summarize like we started, we've met with the owner several times. They have told us that they do not think a theater operator can operate it and make it work. They couldn't find a deal with Landmark that made it work. They don't think it's really doable right now. As I said, that's their opinion as owners and operators of theaters. I'm not saying that we have done any financial analysis of it, and I'm not saying that they are the be-all and end-all. Can we go to the next commenter?
Well, yeah, I mean, Landmark did a nice job with the theater. It's clean and neat. The upholstery's good. The floor is good. Popcorn was good. But they weren't very creative. They could have shown football, for example. Or they could have had a baseball. They could have shown baseball. They could expand some of these things. They could have beer. So there are a lot of ideas if somebody spends time thinking about it. That's all I had.
Thank you for your comment. And again, I'm asking everyone to give us one comment in 2 minutes if you can. We're trying to be as orderly as possible, so thank you. Next.
Well, that was also my first question, which I don't think you still have addressed. Is it purely economics from their point of view? It wasn't profitable enough for them? Do you know?
So again, we have what we've heard from them, and what they have said is that they don't think the business can work with what they have. There may be another way to make that work. I'm not sure. I'm not a theater operator. But their plan for their asset or what they think they can do with it is not a theater currently.
Okay. And then, can the city do anything? Is there any money that the city can funnel into, partner with community groups, or maybe there'll be a foundation, or, you know, somebody will appear with a large chunk of money? I don't know. But are you saying the city basically can't put any money into this because of the way the laws are?
Do you have any more in your comment? I want to.
Yeah, I
Wait
do
till you're
have
done.
one more.
Go
Well,
for it.
I'm just wondering, and maybe other people here know this, how did they do it in El Cerrito? They saved their theater, and I thought the city was involved partially in that too. So is that a model we can follow?
Thank you for the comment and the question. So Jeff mentioned earlier the absence of redevelopment. For anyone who doesn't know, redevelopment is a property tax that cities used to get a portion of. The state decided to end redevelopment several years ago, so we do not get it anymore. Redevelopment money could be used for a wider range of resources than the city's money can. In the case of El Cerrito, I believe that they used redevelopment money to purchase the theater, and that was how they saved it. We do not have access to that resource anymore. I wish we had redevelopment money for so many reasons, but we don't. And like Jeff said, we can't really use public money to invest in a business. We can use it for public benefits. So what was possible in El Cerrito with the Cerrito is not currently possible with the resources we have and the constraints we are under. Next.
Hi, Carol Fitzgerald. So 2 questions. Have they given any indication that they would sell? And the second is, have they indicated how, you say you're in communication with them, they know about tonight, so they know about the community's feelings. Have they given any indication or any understanding or empathy with the desire of the community?
Thank you for the comment and the questions. Sure. They, like Jeff said, they are conservative in regards to their assets. What they've communicated to us is they tend to hold on to them. These are folks who, as I understand it from the history, have owned a lot of theaters and have not really sold off that property. Jeff, do you want to answer that a little further?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it was the first question I asked, actually, is what are they going to do? Are they going to sell it? And they said, no, they like to hold on to their assets and try to reuse it, either, maybe the movie industry evolves and it's viable again, but they're at the moment at least, I think they're sad. I think in the question of empathy, I do think that they have some empathy for what the community is going through, and they are sad to see the business that their family set up kind of go in a different direction, but they're now more of an asset management company than an entertainment business, for better or worse.
And I'll add that they have said that they do. They are open to community engagement. They want that to be a part for whatever ends up happening to this property. So, like Jeff said, they are sympathetic. They have been helpful. It is just not their opinion that it can be a theater right now.
Yes, I hope I understood you correctly, but you mentioned a number of issues that would raise themselves if you reopened the theater, something seismic refits, energy regulations, access, so forth. But all of these concerns were present when the movie theater was operating, and it's still operating. So when it was operating, so was the council about to say, well, stop the movie, we have to address these concerns because, you know, they're out there. So if you didn't raise those concerns when it was running, why would they raise themselves again to restart it? I mean, if I have an electric clock on the wall and PGE cuts off the power, I don't take the clock down and say, oh, it has to be completely refurnished before I plug it in again. I just, just leave it there and it runs like it did before. So I'm curious about that.
Great, thank you for the question. And it's a good one. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff in a second to talk in more detail, but it's really a question of the theater was operating and so could continue to operate. If it were to change hands, specifically the property, then I think it would trigger that going in and saying, well, there's not ADA compliance or these other issues need to be fixed. So if, as I understand it, if another operator leased it from the same owners, that might not come up, but it would be if it changed owners.
So the one thing that they should have done 25 years ago or 30 years ago is make the building accessible to people who need assistance getting into buildings. It's very clearly a violation of federal civil rights law as it has been operated in recent years. The triggers for seismic safety and energy efficiency and those, you can continue just like people have in their homes. You can continue to stay in your home if it's inefficient or unsafe. It's usually a certain amount of work starts to trigger those new requirements. So theoretically, a new operator could come in tomorrow. They definitely should do the accessibility to bring it up to federal accessibility requirements. The other things you could let it slide, I don't think is a very responsible thing to do. It's an old building that certainly needs some attention, but you wouldn't be breaking the law.
And to add just a little more texture on that ADA accessibility, especially, and we're talking about the bathrooms here, especially, because they're not accessible, that is technically out of compliance, but it's a complaint-based process. So we haven't, proactively gone in like we haven't for any business.
There's a federal law that says basically if you do more than $200,000 worth of work in a building, this commercial building, then we make you upgrade it. But because they haven't done $200,000 worth of work in decades, we can't make them upgrade it. But if they were, we would definitely require that. And frankly, I don't apologize for that. I think people ought to be able to go in the front door of a theater to enjoy the show.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Rachel Rosen. I do have a little bit of experience with the entertainment industry and with theaters. And I guess the point I want to make is that the movie business is changing and the theater operation business is changing. And there are many cities that have taken advantage of this change by designing and growing nonprofit theaters. And, movies are an art and they're a business, and it's hard to, not intertwine those two things. But the number and kinds of movies that exist that are not commercial, of course, are much broader than commercial movies. And I think the idea is that if this movie was reimagined as a nonprofit, then your comments about the city not being able to engage in entrepreneurial activities don't quite make as much sense to me, because we're here in a library. I look at this library, I don't imagine it makes a profit, and yet the city has determined that this is something that's important for its citizens to be able to access these books. And I would make the same argument that film is the art form of our generation, and to not have our citizens be able to access it in the manner in which it was designed to be shown is a detriment to the society. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Alex Bush. I've lived in the area for over a decade, and I've been coming to the Albany Twin for that long, and I've lived in Albany for a couple years now. And I have a baby, he's 10 months old, and it makes me so sad to think that maybe he'll never see a movie in a theater. Not just here, but anywhere, right? And it makes me even more sad to think that that's because this many people can come to a city meeting and be unable to do anything about some business owners who would prefer to mothball a property. I'm sure they're very nice people, but that is what we're talking about. I agree with the previous speaker very much that we have museums that are publicly run or nonprofit. We have Ken, right, spoke to opera houses and theaters and all kinds of organizations that are publicly run. And I just think there's such an opportunity here for public jobs or jobs in the arts, and I think about this community, to be doing something that really serves people, that really brings people together. And I do want to say, I think the third space, I love that. And I also think the fact of the third space being a movie theater is specifically important for the reasons that we've heard about tonight with the art of cinema. So one thing I might raise is, if this space is just too expensive, too complicated, too messed up, is there any potential to move forward with thinking about another space for the community to have a movie theater that's, are we in a situation where maybe building something new is easier than retrofitting an existing crumbling building? Because I know that often happens. So I'm running out of time, but that was one thought that came to me. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. My name is Colin Epstein. I've lived in Albany for about 25 years now. Movies are sort of in my blood. My dad was a film historian and archivist and co-founded the UCLA Film Archives. My mother worked for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and I work in visual effects for movies. So it's been like part of my life, my whole life, since as long as I can remember. And so I identify so closely with what a lot has been said about the importance of film as a medium and as a communal experience, and knowing something about the history of film and its presentation and its place in a community over the years, like the role that the neighborhood movie house has played in communities across this country and across the globe, has been very important. And so I'm just really sad to see so many of them going. And I understand I'm not with blinders on about the harsh realities facing the movie business these days. Part of that is because I became very good friends through going to the Twin so many times. I became very good friends with many of the people that worked there. I knew about the trials and tribulations of that theater and of the Landmark chain in general, as friends of mine would be working there and then be working at the KALB, and then they're out of a job. Then they're working at the Shattuck, and then they're out of a job. And then they're working at the Twin, and now they're out of a job. And so I know there's no magic feather that will save the movie business, any movie theater these days. And I'm very sad to hear about the change in the redevelopment laws, because I think what Cerrito did with the Cerrito Theater is exemplary and was really great to see. That was happening just as I moved to the community, and I was like, wow, look what they're doing just right up the street. This is so cool. And so I really hope that some way to save this place and to keep it as a venue that can show films and can bring people together can be found. I know, as has been spelled out quite clearly, that there are serious, very real world boundaries keeping that in blocking that progress.
I don't want to cut you off, but I want to make sure we have time for everybody.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. I did not mean to go over time, but I just wanted to say I hope something can be done, and I really appreciate all the turnout and the attention this is getting.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi there, I'm Nick Peterson. I've lived in Albany almost 30 years. I was born in Berkeley. I'm 67 now. When I grew up in Berkeley, there were probably 14, 15 theaters in Berkeley, from little art venues to the Oaks, and I remember that one was a big theater. There'd be kid days. You go in, it was just a really big part of my life. So that's very nostalgic and very emotional for me. And I kind of like to try to break away from that. And what I'm more interested in, as a member of the Albany Climate Action Coalition, is that I see there's a golden opportunity here to do even better than the theater as a third-party space. And what are the opportunities? Is this developer, I mean, when you say they're holding on to their asset, are you just going to sit there with it closed for 20 years and sell it? I mean, are they going to try to convert it? Or, because it's a good opportunity to provide housing and more use and more vitality in that area of the city, which is the most primary hub location in the city, right at San Pablo and Solano. And as we know, businesses there and entities there have a real hard time. That corner at Solano and San Pablo have a really hard time. There's one that's been remodeling forever. You know, the subway shut down, couldn't keep it up. It's because it's a big, huge traffic circus going on there. So I'm wondering, with this idea of a hub, would this developer be open to doing something more than, taking that property, doing a mixed use? And what I think we should do is close Solano from San Pablo up to Cornell and turn it into a public plaza. Yeah. Oh, I know all you car drivers out there are going, no, our cars, we got to drive right up and park right in front of the rendezvous so we can walk from our car right into the theater. But, I just spent a month in Europe going through cities that had these kind of plazas, and everybody was there, and everybody was eating, and everybody was having a great time, and kids were playing, and there wasn't one single car in sight. So I think there's a big opportunity to bring this to another level, but it takes the participation of the property owner. I would be curious to know what they're thinking of if they can't get a venue operator in there, which it sounds like they can't.
Thank you for your comment. I'll say that's one of those questions we don't have an answer to. What are they willing to consider? I don't know. It'll be an interesting thing to talk to them about what we hear tonight.
Hi, my name is Michael Ranney, and I've been an Albany resident for over 30 years. And I think when the City Council had their first public comments about that, I spoke as well as I could about how I think the theater is central to the identity of our town. I won't belabor that, and others have spoken eloquently about other elements of that. But I guess I have a question, and perhaps it's a bit naive. I understand there's not redevelopment money anymore, and I understand that there's a zone that subtends a block on either side of San Pablo, but I guess I'm not sure why that can't be changed, why the City Council just can't rezone the 10,000 square feet that just happens to be 3 lots and zone it for a theater, a movie theater. And if that seems a little odd, I don't see why the City Council couldn't put it up as a proposition on a ballot to let the public decide if that's something that they really want. The other thing I think that for the community to consider is to not just take what seems to be coming toward us, so we could be a little bit more activist, perhaps. I don't know if it means picketing or protesting, but sometimes corporations realize that bad press or a sense that they're not being community-oriented might change their minds about things. Maybe they'd be a little bit more interested in having other people purchase or rent the property or turn it back into a theater. I don't know what the laws are in Albany in terms of like how you could picket or how often, but I'd be willing to put some time in front of the theater myself. So those are comments for the community. I guess I have questions about the zoning.
Thank you for your comment. Jeff, I'm going to ask you to talk about the zoning briefly.
It would be probably unconstitutional to just say to that particular property, you can only be a movie theater. That's kind of, we'd be essentially restricting the economic viability of the property to one particular industry. We could, and secondly, the way recent state laws have evolved, even if we were to do that, basically, if they came in and said, we want to build housing, the state laws basically preempt a lot of our local zoning regulations anyhow. So in California, it's basically, if you want to build housing, you can build it just about anywhere. That's a kind of very gross simplification, but not far from the reality of the laws that have been passed over the last 7 or 8 years. So it's, I think, approaching this from a regulatory perspective is tempting as a regulator. Like, I'm going to make a rule to fix the problem, but I think it's not going to get us where you all would, and we all, I think, would like it to be. So I'm sorry about that.
To add to what Jeff just said, I think this goes back to, it's very similar to the redevelopment issue that I mentioned earlier, of the ground has shifted pretty massively under our feet in between when something like the Cerrito was saved and now. And I'll tell you, that's frustrating from our point of view. It is frustrating we don't have all those resources or all those options open to us. But that is the world we live in now, really unfortunately. And I wish we had all those options. I wish we had all that money, but we don't.
My name is RJ Pansino, and I'm a resident of Albany. First of all, I just want to say, with all due respect, Mayor, that's an unacceptable answer. We can't do anything about it. I won't accept that. This is a community filled with so many smart people, you all included in that. Okay, one question I haven't heard asked, or I actually did with the first gentleman, but I didn't get an answer. If they're just going to use the property as an asset, that, as you said, because it doesn't work for them, so I'm assuming that's the language they used when you were speaking with them. I want the dollar amount. I want to know what kind of revenue would cause them to have a change of heart, or work with the city and we can lease it from them. I want to know what they want in terms of dollars and cents, because then we have a goal and then we have something we can strive for. Until we have that, nothing. These are great ideas. I love the nonprofit. Did you ask that question, sir?
I don't think they told us that in any of our meetings with them exactly.
Did you ask that question, sir?
I did not ask them for the exact dollar amount. They have not volunteered it. We are happy to communicate. That is a question from the community, and that's a thing they want to know so that they can know, hey, what would it take to have this be operatable as a theater? All I can say is that the deal they had with Landmark, they could not reach a deal with them that satisfied their terms.
Okay, I find that asking a direct question will give you a direct response, and I would really like to know what they would consider revenue for them to continue either them operating it or us leasing it from them and the city operating it. Can you ask those questions on behalf of me and the rest of us?
I can ask those questions. I don't have the answer now.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jack Kenny. I'm one of the co-founders of the Albany Film Fest. And personally, I've been watching films of the Albany Twin for about 60 years. Started as a kid there. So I've had a connection to it for a long time. And more recently with the Film Fest, the Albany Twin has been the home for the Albany Film Fest for the last 8 years. And in that time, I believe that we've created a community showcase. We show short films. We've shown films from filmmakers from all over the world, but especially filmmakers from Albany and surrounding communities. So it's really served a community purpose that way. As we were preparing for this year's Albany Film Fest, we were told in April by Landmark that they would no longer rent to outside groups like film festivals. I guess we should have gotten a hint that something was happening, but and then it closed a few months later. Luckily, we were able to find a new location at the Cerrito, which has been talked about a lot. Luckily, they were very welcoming, and the Film Fest will start a week from tonight. And so please support the Film Fest. There's programs out there at the door. But I think we really need to have the Albany Film Fest in Albany. And so we want to find a way, if there is a way, to bring us back from exile. Although El Cerrito's great, but we want to be back where we started and showcase Albany filmmakers again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Pacheco, and I've lived in Albany about 6 years, so I'm one of the newbies, as opposed to 60 years. But I guess I just wanted to add my voice to the chorus and say I'm also just very sad, and for some of the reasons other speakers have mentioned. I have two small kids. They're 4 and 2, and they just saw their first movie at the Cerrito. They're doing free movies for families on weekend matinees, which was great. And the third space also really resonated with me, that my husband and I go out on Solano Ave. We have dinner, if we get a babysitter, and then there's kind of not that much to do if you don't want to go to a bar a lot of times, So those spaces where people can go and play games and see art, and I'm also thinking of the bowling alley that closed. I know we're not here to talk about that, but we moved to Albany a few years ago and saw all these vibrant things going on, including, spaces like that, the Twin, obviously, the July 4th Festival, all these things that really went away during the pandemic, and it just has really changed the city even in the time we've been here. And like the other speaker said, it makes me worry that my kids won't have those things that we really value. Worked for a couple of arts nonprofits and other mission-driven companies, and I'm really glad to hear people's ideas about sort of other ways to get this done. I think the nonprofit idea makes a lot of sense. If the government is not in a position to help, I would just encourage us to look at other creative ideas. One that comes to mind from my old neighborhood is Borderland Books in San Francisco. Became a collective, I think not actually a nonprofit, but a sort of subscription model where people paid upfront a yearly fee. So it was a bookstore that was about to close, and they sort of organized in that way and saved it as a community. And I just, definitely understand the sort of economic realities, but I hope, and it makes me very optimistic that, Albany as a community, maybe I'll just say one more word, that Albany sees the value in something like this, and that it goes beyond just the dollars and cents and profit motive, and that we can find some other creative ways. So thank you to the Friends of the Albany Twin also. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Laura Scheffler, and I have lived in Albany for about 25 years, but I also lived here in 1987 when I was just out of college, and they were charging $1.75, which was cheap even then. We would see anything for $1.75. And I bring that up because I think I also really like the idea of a nonprofit, and I think that another angle on that is how could that contribute to the formal or informal education of the youth in this community? I see a lot of us here are blessed with maturity, and then a few young people. And when I was in high school, I lived in a town that had a film repertory series, different show every night, at an affordable rate, and we were there all the time. I think, and it was essential to my education, that there was something different, and yeah, it was formative, it was fabulous. And so that's just an angle that I want to bring up. Am I willing to help? Actually, yeah. Just throwing that out there for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Peter Frolio, local millennial pinko commie, so representing that contingent of the town. I don't have any useful questions like people have come before me, but I do just want to echo some of those sentiments. I believe the council did mention, or someone on the council did mention, that the property owners did express some empathy for the situation of our community, and I do want to say that I'm skeptical that they have any goals other than personal profit, and it would be lovely to have a third space that operates in the public interest rather than solely for someone's balance sheet. But aside from that, I do also want to mention that I loved going to the Albany Twin partially because they had, I mean, not to throw any shade on, the El Cerrito Theater, but the AMC at Bay Street, I feel like there's a bit more of, their options were a bit more monocultural, and the Albany Twin showings were, not like transgressive, but more like independent film stuff that you couldn't really see anywhere else. I don't think I was able to see or I don't think I saw any other options for viewing. Just this past year, I went to the Albany Twin to see Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up and Celine Song's Past Lives. I don't think that I would have had that the opportunity to see those in a theater otherwise. So thanks.
Thank you.
I'm Susan Chu, and I've lived here since 2001.
You make sure to speak into the microphone.
I've lived here since 2001. I'm Susan Chu, and my experience in a movie theater is most, pronounced when I was in veterinary school. So there's so much work and pressure. I mean, I would cry while I was reading my notes, hoping I could somehow, pass the test. But the only way I could escape was to go up to the Sacramento Theater. I went to Davis. And just in that Tower Theater for 2 hours, my mind could be completely gone from anything with school. And it was like a mental health break. And I can say that, for this theater here, I know that one of my friends rented it for $400 for her birthday party. I mean, people don't know that we could use that. For this city and the surrounding area, there's no public theater space where a company could come and perform or musicians can perform. They have to go all the way to downtown Berkeley. And I think that this community would support that kind of thing. I do believe that we have to be, or I believe that we do have to know about money, because money is just part of life. And so I would think about a mixed use. Maybe it won't be the giant theater that we have or the 2 theaters, but we could have, I don't know if there's public housing and whatever would need to happen to make it a profitable space as well as a movie theater. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, a lot of people. I'm Judy Kerr. I live in Albany. I am a member of the Finance Advisory Committee for the city, and I'm speaking as an individual, not as a representative of that committee tonight. But I do have some understanding of some of the things that the city potentially could do financially to sort of incentivize a better or any use of this property. In 2022, this council, or actually a prior council, reviewed the possibility of a commercial property vacancy tax and decided not to pursue that. I think in the situation that we're in now, not just with the theater, but in properties at large, there's a lot of reason to incentivize property owners who are really just sitting on property and not paying very high taxes because of Proposition 13 vagaries, to really encourage that. I think you could, as a council, revisit the commercial property vacancy tax issue. So I'd like to encourage you to do that.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? As you might have guessed from what I'm wearing, I'm a member of the Friends of the Albany Twin. My name is Jeff Lichtman. I'm also a member of the Friends of the Cerrito Theater. And I want to talk about the benefits that the Cerrito has brought to that community, because as I see it, that is the mirror image of what Albany could lose with the loss of the Albany Twin. Before the Cerrito was redeveloped into a theater, that block was pretty much dead. There wasn't much there to attract anybody. And now there are 3 restaurants, and a brew pub on that block alone. And then in the next block, there's a little strip mall with several restaurants. And on top of that, the marquee of that theater now is the identity of the city. The city actually uses that marquee and the blade, the name Cerrito, to give the city some identity. You see that as you get off the freeway and you come down Central Avenue, you see the word Cerrito there. Just as you can see the word Albany still on the Albany Theater, although it's not lit up right now. These are things that the city of Albany could lose if the theater just dies and it's turned into something else. I don't have any magic answers. I know that there's no redevelopment money anymore, but this is just to kind of light a fire under people, to make people understand why this is important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Linda Moss. I too live in El Cerrito, and we love the Cerrito Theater very much. It's wonderful to see this turnout and to hear all of what you've had to say. It was very, very informative. So I thank you for that. Like several others who've talked about going to movies locally, and now all that we have left is the Elmwood and Berkeley and the Cerrito. And it just breaks our heart, honestly. And to give up this last theater is just more than I can think of. Or to put a big box store, it's just unthinkable. It is such a vibrant area of the city, and full of people having a good time. We love to go to the Rendezvous. They have music twice a month, live music, and it always fills up. And but if you're going into this boarded up place or going past it, it's just more than you can stand. And I was authorized by the musician at the Rendezvous, George Cole, who plays wonderful music, to say that he would do a benefit for the theater. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lisa Solomon. I've lived in Albany for about 25 years, and at that time, the Oaks Theater was open at the top in Berkeley. The bowling alley was open. The Twin is open. I don't want to live in a town that doesn't have a movie theater. I don't know if you all remember, some years ago, Petaluma lost their movie theater, and a group of teenage young women got a theater to move into Petaluma after there were no theaters. We can do something for Albany. We have to be able to come up with some kind of solution. I agree, the third place situation, it's so important, and we have so few spaces like that in Albany. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Pansino, and I've lived in Albany for 15 years, and I love the Albany Twin. I really liked, a couple of prior people brought up the idea about working with the nonprofit. And maybe the upstairs theater could be indie films, downstairs could be rented out to venues like KALB Performances, Freight and Salvage, Berkeley Rep, Ashkenaz, places that might need a performance or two in a different place. And we could do that. So just a thought. And that way the movies could still be alive upstairs, and then downstairs could be multi-purpose stage. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wallace Robin. You've heard a lot of passion and a lot of creative ideas here tonight. And you know, there's a lot of need, I think, cultural and social need for the theater to remain. I want to echo the comments by one previous speaker who essentially asked the council to be a little more assertive in this issue. I couldn't agree more. Just to find just the basic question, what do these guys want? You know, it's just a basic financial business question. And I would like to echo her request that you pursue that. And I understand that your focus is many places other than this issue. I wonder if you can designate, if someone would volunteer to be a sort of an agent for us, if you're not focused enough to assert some inquiry that might move this further.
Thank you. I'll comment, like it at the start. A lot of work has gone into planning and gathering the info for this. So I assure you it is not because we are not trying or doing things. I've had many meetings with staff. We've had meetings with other people. So we are, you know, I'm trying. The staff is trying. We have had those meetings. We have tried to do that research. So I appreciate the thought. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nick Pilch, and forgive me, this might be a little tough. In my rush to get over here, I forgot my glasses, so fortunately I'm nearsighted. I'm a member of the Friends of Albany Twin, and speaking for myself here tonight, many of you might know me. I've worn many hats, and I'm not someone who is for nostalgia's sake. I'm someone who's very much for progress. But I lived in San Francisco and used to be able to walk to 10 different theaters, and they're probably all gone now. I've heard that there are 27 screens in Berkeley, not that many theaters, but 27 screens. I think there's one now, the Elmwood, which was saved back in the 90s, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the saving of the Cerrito Theater. I love film. And when it came, and you know, I got a VCR when I was first able to. I saw movies in movie theaters as much as I could. And I saw all these theaters shut down. And then when the Albany shut down, it was personal, because that's where I live. I live in Albany, so I decided I needed to step up and fight. So I'm grateful to see that you've all come here tonight. And I think I'm grateful for the city holding this session and listening, and I think they're doing a great job by doing that. I think it is going to take us to help save this theater, so please make sure to sign up for our mailing list. If you know any angels, people maybe with too much money on their hands, people maybe looking to start a nonprofit or an investment, please let us know. Please get in touch. We do have an email address. I don't know, I'm not sure if I should. Okay, we have flyers you can take on our way out. Sign up on our website or use the QR code on the flyers. Do get in touch. I think there's some great ideas that I've heard here tonight, and I want to save this space. Let's save this space for films, for music, maybe for theaters, maybe for film business, maybe even for birthday parties, but let's save this space.
Thank you.
Kevin Smith, 25 years in Albany. It's the first time I'm speaking before the council, so not used to this. A lot of great ideas. I think really the reality is that movie theaters are going away, unfortunately. And I think what I would like us to think about is a mixed-use cultural center. I don't feel Albany has. I'm very been disappointed over the years that our students in the public school system don't have a real performance arts center because we're just a small community. And I think when I see other cities that have functioning cultural community centers, they can show movies, they can do music, they can do literature, book festivals, they can do all kinds of things. So I would really like us to think outside the box of what, can you hear me? What we can do to make it financial sustainable, so maybe they will listen to that. I really do think the community of Albany has to look at it as a cultural center, a community center, and therefore your role is very essential in this whole process. It's not just a private entity we're talking about. We're talking about a community cultural center in a community that has a lot of cultural interests, a lot of intellectual interests, have a lot of resources from the University of Berkeley, from the music venues in the East Bay. It could be a real community cultural center that would really benefit the local economy. Because I've heard, and we know, a lot of the economy in this downtown area is going to hurt, especially restaurants. So I think we need to think outside the box, not so much getting these movies up on the big screen, but thinking about mixed use, a cultural center that we can do all kinds of things with, nonprofit, and the community really supporting.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to thank you for being here tonight. I know I've already seen you once this week. Staff, thank you for all the work that you've put into this. It's great to have people here. So often, council talks to an empty room. I think they appreciate you being here. And I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, but I think he must have been looking at my notes, because that's exactly what I wanted to say. I think it's important. The high school is desperate for performing arts space. That's been the one piece on that block that never happened, was getting the theater rebuilt. So I think a partnership with a nonprofit, with the school district, to make more than just a theater, but to make a real art, performing art space somewhere in Albany. It may not be on that corner, but there may be other places in Albany that will either could be available or will be available in the future. So I think we just need to think of more than just a screen and a film, but how can we expand art in Albany? Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi there. My name is TJ Fisher. I have been filled with disappointments since the Twin closed, but also filled with hope, because I am a big movie bum all over the Bay Area, and I know that this is a wonderful community where we can see many examples for how we might proceed with saving the theater. I know I'm a steering committee member for the Friends. We greatly appreciate the effort that the city has put into discussing what they can and can't do. We've heard a lot about options that are not on the table for us right now, but I just wanted to share a couple examples of theaters locally that have been saved without public funds, including the Lark Theater in Larkspur, which was saved with almost entirely private donations, ranging from 24 citizens at $25,000 each to $140 from Corte Madera Elementary School. The Chabot Theater in Castro Valley, which was recently purchased by a Presbyterian church and an arts group together. And finally, the Four Star Theater in San Francisco, which was being marketed for redevelopment, and a philanthropist in the neighborhood found that he had some money burning a hole in his pocket, and he purchased it and donated it. So there's a wide range of options that can harness the passion that we find here in this room, the money that we might find under our cushions and elsewhere, and the passion that we have for the community here in Albany and making sure that we have strong cultural options. So I just wanted to end with that little note of hope. I think it's important to talk about what we can't do, and also to make you all aware that there's a lot that we can do. And the Friends looks forward, if you catch us on the way out, we can add you to our mailing list, and we can all keep that conversation going together. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to wrap up. I'm Susan Friedland. I'm a member of Friends of the Albany Twin, and we're all here to help figure out a way to plug everyone into the solution to this problem that we're all facing, from the third space to the mental health during vet school to the birthday parties, to so many memories that everyone here has. No one wants this theater to close, and there's so much talent, skill, and even money in this community to keep it open. We really appreciate the city's been in great conversation with the Friends. This is a wonderful, this is their meeting, but they kindly invited us to participate. There's so much we can all do, and it's only going to happen if everyone gets together to do it, because the city doesn't have the money or the ability to tell this private landlord what to do. So we need to figure out a real estate solution, a programming solution, a business solution to keeping the theater alive. So what I implore everyone here to do is to fill out the comments, keep showing up. 100 people coming because they care about saving the theater is what will save the theater ultimately. Get on our mailing list. There's some student filmmakers out in the lobby there. Talk about engaging young people in the arts and film. They want to hear your stories about what your experiences were at the Twin. What are some of your memories? That can get edited together and create a really compelling story to keep the Twin alive in some form or fashion. So I really hope that, thanks for letting me end this meeting. I've been here 10 years. I'm the former chair of the Albany Music Fund, keeping music alive in the public schools. I run a nonprofit affordable housing development agency that's right now building affordable housing in Albany. And all I have to say is this is possible. So I just want to end it on that note, and thank you guys for coming. From our perspective, I know it's a public meeting, so I'm not ending the public meeting, but I do hope you engage. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we bring it back to the council, does anyone else have any public comment? If you want to, go now. I think we're only doing one bite at the apple for now. Thank you. We want to be able to let you guys go home at some point and not have this turn into like a 5-hour council meeting like they sometimes do for our regular meetings, and we can have more at some point in the future.
I just want to know when we can circle back around and find out about the questions that were asked tonight.
We will release those as soon as we can. We will be working on them. We will do it as fast as possible. We will find a way to put them out via Albany e-News, via the mayor's statement, via council meetings, something. Jeff, I don't know if you want to, if I can put you on the spot a little bit.
No problem. Well, the Friends of the Steering Committee of the Friends, we can connect with them directly and make sure that we got all the questions and communicate what the answers are, and then they can distribute it out from there.
Great. Any other comments of anyone who hasn't had a chance yet?
In Elmsville, we get a monthly email update from the city manager, and it's very informative. And I tried to connect with the city clerk in Albany to get something like that. I never heard that. And I'm wondering if there's a way to, get that information on a regular basis.
If anyone's interested, we do have a variety of email lists that you can sign up for to get regular news for Albany, including our sort of general email list. Nicole, I don't know if you can summarize what some of those are briefly.
Sure, yeah. I think the most helpful resource that we have available is not necessarily a message from me, but a message from our entire department and team, which is our city e-news that's sent out every Friday. And any hot topical areas would be included in that, and there's always a link for more information. Those are, yes, City Albany e-News.
Great. With that, I'm going to let the other council members who have been kind enough to join us say anything if they'd like to. They don't have to. And then I'll try and summarize and lead us out.
I want to thank the mayor for taking leadership on this. It's not a situation where every council member can do that for state law reasons readily, so I appreciate that and appreciate staff working on it. I believe the mayor's also been liaising with the Friends of the Albany Twin. And it might be useful to have the Friends of the Albany Twin in the room, potentially, with the owner at some point, to show that passion, so they actually see, hear, and feel that, if their owner is willing to do that, of course. I guess that would be a tangible sign that they're nice people, that they'd be willing to meet. So, thank you for taking that under advisement.
I just wanted to echo thanks to everyone for coming out. And really, I want to say having a very passionate but polite conversation tonight. And I do want to also extend a thanks to the mayor again and staff and the Friends of the Albany Twin, because I think this is an effort that if we as a community truly want to save the arts in our community, if we want to make sure that there's a place to see movies, if we want to one day see a bowling alley or make sure that we keep our music venues, it is something in which it has to be a partnership between the council, the staff, the members of the public, and the last piece is the private property owners. And so I really appreciate you all coming out here. I chose with my family to stay in Albany. I did not choose Albany when I first came to Albany. You see, Berkeley chose that for me. I lived in the Village. But we chose to live here because of what Solano offers us, both in Berkeley and in Albany. Particularly Lower Solano, though, with the movie theater, with the cafes. You can spend from 8 in the morning until 9 at night easily on that block of our community. And the theater is a third place. It is an important key. It is something that helps drive our economy. It helps define who we are. And one of the things to note is that is the kind of place that you can't simply replace by building a new building. And so I feel your passion. I understand your passion. And I appreciate, but at the same time, I also appreciate everything that staff is doing and the mayor's doing that is within our power, at least as elected officials or as staff members. But I also want to highlight a lot of the comments were made tonight about thinking beyond just the Twin Theater. And I know that's specifically why we met tonight. But the comments about how do we make sure that AUSD and the students that we have here have places to present, and whether or not that's at Memorial Park along that block or somewhere else within our community. How do we make sure that we're protecting our music venues both in Albany and in our neighbors next door? How do we make sure that these third places exist and how we encourage them to happen in the future? Because we passed the San Pablo Avenue specific plan. It will help us as a community meet our housing needs for those who live here today, those who want to come back and live here, and those who might choose to live here in the future. But that will also at that time redevelop other parcels. And so we as a community need to work together to think about how not just the Twin, but all of those things that we love about our community, we help support and we help protect. And with that, I'll send it back to the mayor.
And this often happens in council meetings. There'll be questions that the answers and the information aren't readily available at the moment, but it occurs to me that the City of Alameda also saved its theater as part of a expansion of that theater. And I don't know how they did that. I believe there was some public funding for that. I think there was a bond measure that was associated with that, but I'm not sure. So I know I will be looking at and researching that. But if anybody here on the days happens to know anything about that at the moment, I'd welcome the information. And if you don't, that often happens in meetings, but it's a place to start.
It's interesting, Councilmember Jordan, that you mentioned that. And early in my career, I worked for the redevelopment agency at Alameda. I worked on the Alameda Theater unsuccessfully in the early 1990s. Alan Michon, the guy who runs the Grand Lake in Oakland, I think he's still an Alameda resident, tried to acquire that property and was unsuccessful. And so working with the redevelopment agency, we tried to do something. It didn't work out in that case. I think after I left Alameda, it would probably have been in the early 2000s, the redevelopment agency did manage to acquire what was then a Long's Drug Store site and put a parking structure in. And that helped facilitate the development of that theater into a multi-screen theater with in that case, with the parking structure as part of of the project. I could get the financial details in that very easily if a future council discussion.
You've been all over this area. Pretty amazing. He also, I believe you came here from working with, or for UC as a planner, right? So you've been on...
I've been working a while.
Yeah, a little while. Well, thank you for bringing your expertise here. So it wasn't the redevelopment era, I was unclear, and
Yes, that is definitely a redevelopment project in Alameda.
Okay, yeah, and I couldn't remember if the bond funding went for strictly the garage, which, you know, was essentially a public property, as I understand it.
That I would want to double check before I convey that.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Great. So we're at the end of our meeting. So I just want to summarize and give some closing comments. But first, I want to thank everybody for showing up. This is amazing attendance for a meeting. As some others have mentioned, we often are speaking to empty rooms. So it really, nothing makes me happier than when there is real community engagement on an issue and a lot of people show up. I wish it was more often for things that made people smile, but I'll take it. And I as the Vice Mayor said, we've heard a lot of passion. We've heard a lot of people speak to this, and I really do appreciate that. I get it. I'm there with you. I grew up in Albany. I have a lot of fond memories of the Twin. It makes me sad that at Stroll I can't go and watch Looney Tunes there anymore, as I have memories of doing that. Just like it made me sad that we lost the bowling alley where I went for PE to learn how to bowl, which people are eternally gobsmacked by was a real PE unit. And that's a unique thing about Albany that I'm sad we lost. And this is a similar thing. I know we started out this meeting by being a little dour, and I'm sorry we had to do that, to say the things we can't do. But I think if I want everyone here to take something away from this meeting, is that there's a lot of passion in the community to do something. And you all came out, and there is an organization that is trying to get you guys organized to do something. And even if Albany as the city can't be in the driver's seat of figuring out what that is, we want to be in partnership, and we are there to facilitate what we can do. We covered the things we can't. We can't make redevelopment exist anymore, but we can be supportive. We can do things like that example of, if it needs a parking structure, and that's a public resource. If it's the question of we need a third space that is a more mixed-use community center that supports arts education, that's the kind of thing we can talk about. There are things that we can do and that we want to do. It's just we need you to also be working on it. And those ideas of a nonprofit and crowdfunding and all of these things, I really hope that you guys get together and do that. And I am happy to come and talk to you and listen to you and hear your suggestions and try and do whatever we can to make that happen and help you in that effort. And we will do what we can to get the information that we've been asked and get those follow-ups. I'm sorry we don't have all the answers now. I wish we did. Nothing would make me happier as a politician to be able to tell you guys, yes, I can do exactly what you want. Saying no is hard. But I want us to take away from this that we've heard a lot of things that you value about the Twin, and that we need to work as a city to make sure is being provided, whether it's in that building or not, and that there is a hugely powerful move to save the Twin, and we are going to be a part of that, even if we can't be all of it. So thank you all for being here. We'll have more conversations about this. We'll have more updates about it. Please talk to each other. That is really, if it's not the city, that's what the community is. It's all of you, and it's all of you talking to each other. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for letting us know how you're feeling, for sharing your memories, for sharing your questions and your ideas. Thank you to the other council members who could be here to let us have this sort of weird meeting, and all of the staff who did a huge amount of work to make this happen. I really appreciate them and all of that they have done, really going above and beyond. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you all.